Howdy, hey, Drawing One students. We are going to learn about parts of light and shadow. And one of your final projects is you're going to be shading a sphere. What I would suggest when you're doing this project is actually look at a physical photograph of a sphere. You can easily find that online. But let's talk about those parts of light and shadow. Let's see. So on the PowerPoint that I will be giving to you guys, we're just going to quickly go over this again. I swear repetition really helps. Okay, number one's the highlight. So this is your highlight. This is the lightest part of the object where the light directly hits it. Let's see. And before I forget, we're going to skip down to number 4. So this is called your terminator. It's also called the bedbug line. It has 2 different names. And what the terminator is this imaginary line that separates the light from the shadow. I'm going to do a little illustration up here. So here's my sphere. Here's my light. Let's say there's a lamp here, shining light. And the light of the lamp comes down, hits the sides of the sphere right here. Now my terminator is this perpendicular line that separates the light from the shadow. So that is your terminator. Okay, going back to the light. Oops, I got my highlight here. Number 2, we're going to call it full light is what we're going to call it. It can go by many names, but this full light is this general area. So this whole area right here, that's my full light. Number 3 is called your halftone, or it's also called the midtone. This is where light is still touching it. The halftone is still part of the light, but it's starting to curve and turn into a shadow. I like to think about the axis of the earth and light and day. So here's the halftone on my little scribble drawing over here. Light is still hitting it, but it's starting to darken just a bit. I get to my terminator. Number 5, this is called your core shadow. It is the darkest part of an object. So no light is hitting the core shadow. I'm going to scribble in the core shadow here. Light is not hitting the core shadow. We are not hitting the shadow side. Okay, number 6. This is called reflected light. Don't forget your reflected light. What's happening is light is coming down, it's hitting the table, and it's bouncing back up, and it's creating the bottom of the sphere to look lighter. So the actual light of the actual light source is not hitting it. It's just light from other objects. So for example, if there was another object sitting right over here, the light could be bouncing off this object and making this side of the sphere lighter. So reflected light. Your reflected light is a little bit darker usually than your halftone. Okay, number 7 is called your cast shadow. It is the shadow cast from the light of the object. Now something you can do, I create a horizontal line here, some lines where the light is hitting it, and I'm just kind of going to draw an oval around this. That's my cast shadow. Okay, number 6, or 8, excuse me. This is called the occlusion shadow. It's also called the crevice shadow. That's another word you can think of for it. So the crevice shadow, where that object and the table meet, is probably the darkest area you're going to see. And something I've noticed with students, that when they do this, if they concentrate making this area really dark, where the object and the table meet, usually it doesn't look like it's floating and being weird. So you really want to make it dark. Two other words that I want to introduce. There's something called the penumbra shadow and the umbra shadow. And what that is, an umbra shadow is, like this is an umbra shadow here, this is a penumbra shadow. And what a penumbra shadow is where the light is hitting it, but it's kind of dissipating. There's other light sources coming around, making a really soft edge. So here's my penumbra shadow, and an umbra shadow is where there is no light hitting the shadow. So that's just another useful words to think about, especially when you're looking at the edge of your cast shadow. Some people don't have a penumbra shadow and the shadow is very crisp and clear, and sometimes it isn't. So just depending on the sphere that you have. All right.